when I talk about protecting our family values. So many of you out there have read and heard, even recently, that they have basically ruled that the day of prayer is unconstitutional. One more chip against our Christian values have occurred. They took prayer out of schools. They took the Bibles out of the schools. They took so many of those liberties. They took our 10 Commandments off the walls of courtrooms and judge chambers. So what are they doing? They're basically devaluing our Christian faith and making it less valuable to ourselves. And they don't adhere to anything that they think. In God we trust, they don't do that. In God they in disgust, in my opinion. So what are we going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? The reason you're here tonight, I think, because we want to do something about change that's effective change and real change. So what are you worried about tonight? Are you worried about jobs? Are you worried about the future of your businesses? Are you worried about your families? All those things are in jeopardy in our current structure. Our country is bankrupt and nobody's talking about it. It's bankrupt. If you look at what's going on, I think in the news today, Fannie Mae are going to be bailed out again. Again. So they're still making bad loans. And I talked to a bunch of realtors last week, and they're talking about what can we do to help the real estate market. But there's too many incentives out there to do the bad loans rather than the good loans. And if any of you ever applied for a loan recently, you'll know that the banks are scrutinizing you 3 times over, because a lot of people that's gone before you that's did some bad things in the form of bad loans. And so we got a few bankers here, and I'm sure they can tell you that right now they want to lend money, but because of the restrictions and requirements they've got to go through, it's making it very difficult for them to loan money to good clients. For example, we had a loan request the other day. 5 years ago, this particular client had 2 assets, 2 buildings that were worth $4 million. And they got a $2.5 million loan 5 years ago. Today, they're trying to renegotiate that loan for $2 million, but what happened to their assets? The real estate value is worth only $2 million. So what they asked our clients to do was come up with $250,000 to let that loan ratio to about 75%. That's a difficult request to make of a small businessman. But because of family and other connections, they were able to do that. So tonight, I want you to worry about some things. I'm going to talk about sacrifices that we all have to make. These sacrifices will include us making sure that our government officials that go to Washington or go to the State House or go to the local elections are representing what you think is best for your community. What's best for our community is we need to make sure that we've got a solid economic foundation that we're building on. Some basic principles that we've ignored for a long time in the federal government is we don't spend more money than we take in. Make sense? You can't do that in your business without borrowing. That's what they've done. They borrowed and borrowed and borrowed. I will spend my energy looking also for the first district to bring as many job providers as we can here. We're working with a small company up in North Myrtle Beach that has the potential of having 4,000 jobs here in a period of time. So we want to encourage that. We want to also provide some benefits from our local communities and encourage them to relocate here and do things here. So what can you do? One, you're here tonight to help me, which I thank you very much for doing that. Number 2, I encourage you that we can win this seat. And why is it important to win this seat in Horry County, for Horry County? Because we haven't had true representation here since 1972 as a local representation from a local congressman. What will that mean to us? I hope it's going to mean we'll have a better voice, a stronger advocate in Washington that knows your needs you're setting out there with. As I think about what's going on throughout the district, I know that over the 30 years that I've been in business, that I've seen a lot of businesses fail, and I've seen a lot of businesses succeed. So I want to make sure that we apply those principles that make them succeed into the principles of what we need to do in Washington. One is that we've got to make sure that we hire the very best people. As you're an employer, you're going to hire the best people that you could possibly hire. 2, you need to give them the best training you can give them. because they've got to be able to fulfill their obligations and duties in that particular task. Over the years, I've been able to surround myself with great people that make me look good because they're a lot smarter than I am. And when I go to Washington, there's going to be hopefully 100 new faces, Danny, that's going to be elected to this Congress, that's going to have an open mind without worried about what their future is in Washington. Their future is in back here, back home. And what we hope to send people up there that want to stay here in the district a lot more than want to stay in Washington. Because what happens, they stay up there too long. They're about 9 months. And what happens in those 9 months, they argue for 5. They work for 4, and they come home for 3. Okay? So I think we need to change that pattern and let them stay home for about 6 months, let them be up there for about 4 months, and have a little transition of about 2 months. And so as I looked around the country at some things that I'd like to see happen, there was a little law that was initiated on September 14th. It talked about bring our congressmen back home. A few days after September 11th, they were concerned about what may happen if somebody drove a plane into the Capitol and took out all the congressmen, took out all the senators, because they tried to do it with the Pentagon. And so there was an effort there to make sure that we could do some voting in our districts back home, which makes a lot of sense, because then we could actually ask our neighbors their opinion about what they think this bill should mean to them. We could ask our fellow business associates what that may mean to them, rather than asking these lobbyists what this means to them. Because you know what happens? The lobbyists control a lot of things up there, because there are strings attached with the money they give them. So tonight, there's no strings attached to me. Okay? There's no big benefactor sitting back here that says, Clark, I've donated all this money to you, and you need to do these things for me. That's not happening. I said, I've got a very special money from some very special interests. My family, my business associates, my friends, and my colleagues. And I feel very proud to represent them in that manner.